on friends.
Welcome to this event today, looking at QuickBooks Accountant and the key 7 or 8 tools that really you need to use or know that they're there when you're working with QuickBooks clients. Okay. As far as receiving and accessing files, we're going to be talking about the accountant's copy conversion process, the ability to receive a file from the client, make changes, and send those changes back to be merged into your client's file. Also, once you get your files, how do you manage them best? So we're looking at File Manager. Now, multi-instance, that's just the ability to have 2 instances of QuickBooks, either Accountant 2011 or 2012, open and going forward. When you get the new years, you'll be able to have two separate data files open, your firm file and a client's file, or a couple clients' files. So that's kind of a no-brainer. I'll show that briefly. But then once you're in the file, there's the Accountant Center, kind of your dashboard that follows you from file to file with tools and a reconciliation widget, things like that. Now, once you need to actually clean up a file, there's the Client Data Review, the complete set of tools to definitely reduce your time and make you more efficient in that cleanup process. And that's found in the Accountant Edition as well. The next tool will be the Statement Writer, looking at when you're running your peer review reports, your GAAP compliant reports, and how that helps you live link to the data so you don't have to just keep re-exporting to Excel or some other program. That is also included in the Accountant Edition. We'll quickly go through one of the new condensed features just for the Accountant's Edition, which is the period copy, or the ability to create a disclosure file. And then finally, you will see the ability to toggle when you're consulting with your clients. That is definitely something you guys do often. What is the best, what's the right fit for QuickBooks desktop versions? Is it Pro or is it one of the Premiers? You can toggle to them and see which would be the best product for your client. So this is of the 7 or 8 things we're going to look at. And the file extensions I'm going to be working with today, just so we're all on the same page, .qbw, obviously the company file, the work file, and will also be in the .qba, the accountant's copy file. I've already received a .qbx from the client. We'll talk about the different ways to receive that accountant's copy transfer file, and I'm going to export the changes and send the .qby back to my client to then, close the loop in the accountant's copy process and import the changes into their .qbw or company file. Then, of course, QBM and QBB, I won't be working with those at all, but those are the backup in the portable files. Now, let's go ahead and start with the accountant's copy process. And we will be discussing the accountant's copy file transfer service as well. So accountant's copy, to reduce most duplicate entry in the client's file, you might already be using this. There's a dividing date is created on your client's end. They send you this file. You either get it through email or from our servers. And then you take the .qbx and convert it to a .qba or the accountant's copy file. You make your changes there, and much of the client data review and other work can you do there now. And then you go ahead and create the change file and export those changes in the .qby back to your client's file. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Again, this is the scenario we're trying to fill the void where you're not hosting QuickBooks, you're not all in the same file, you're not using QuickBooks Online, and in this case, you're not going to send a backup or portable back to your client for them to just input the changes that you've already done. And that would be 2 people doing the same work. Okay, so this kind of fills that gap, does the accountant's copy process. And one of the key components of the accountant's copy would be the accountant's copy file transfer service. Been around since 2008. You guys know if you've been using it. You've received an email like I've gotten here from your client, right? It tells it, an accountant's copy transfer file is now available for download, and so the .qbx is attached. You save it somewhere on your server or hard drive. Best practice, obviously, to convert it locally. You convert that into a .qba. Okay, so that hasn't changed much, but what has changed since 2011 anyway, and going forward, is the ability to now send the change file back to your client through our server as well. And I'll show you how easy it is for them to import those changes. Okay, so let's get going here. Now, just to remind you, maybe you've never seen how a client actually creates the accountant's transfer file. Notice that I have toggled over to Pro from the accountant. Let me get that one off the list, the toggling ability. Toggle to another edition from the accountant. When you close the program, it'll launch again, always in the Home edition, which would be your QuickBooks Accountant edition. But you can toggle to the other editions and see, what do change orders on the estimates look like, although you can see that in your accountant too. But maybe, are there previous reconciliation reports that you can run by month in Pro? You can go and prove that no, they'd have to be at the Premier level, etc. What about sales orders, etc.? So great tool for consulting, and it also correlates to this industry-specific reporting. Well, I'll show you that when we get into QBA. But accountant's copy, back to that. Accountant's copy, send to accountant. This is where they'd initiate the process. Notice there was a save file and a send to option. So they can do either. Save files, just they save the .qbx, slap it on an email, send it to you. Send to accountant would use our server. And it's going to require them to choose a dividing date. Either way, they have to choose a dividing date. I'm going to pick one that's right in your guys' wheelhouse. You've been doing probably 12/31/2011 work for a while. Now, this allows you guys to work independently in a version of the same file, and then your changes will be able to import into the client's file. They have to put in your email address, the accountant's email address twice, and then their name and their email address. The nice thing about the accountant's copy file transfer service, which is just about sending and receiving files, other than that, has nothing else to do with the accountant's copy overall process, right? Both parties are emailed throughout the process from our QuickBase servers. And then they have to create a password, strong password, and they can put in the notes. I mean, we say don't put the password here, but you could do it, right? It just depends how secure you want to be, and then you click send. Okay, it goes up to the server. So I'm going to leave that file as it is now, and now I have gotten the email. I've saved it in a folder on my desktop, and now as the accountant, I'm going to go ahead and actually convert the .qbx to a QBA file. So. And that you need Account Edition for. Accountant's copy, open and convert transfer file. And notice it says I can work independently. I'm going to work on the prior period. They're going to work on the current period. And then I can send the changes to be imported. And then here's what I can do in an accountant's copy, what I cannot. The list has gotten less and less over the years. Pretty much just nothing with payroll other than processing payroll forms. You can do much more, definitely in the recent years. If you haven't looked at the accountant's copy since, say, 06 or 07, you should really take a look. Last couple of years, we've added a lot of things back in there that you can do. Now it's going to go to my file. There's my .qbx file that I want. Click open, and I'm going to put in the password that they sent me. Right when they sent me the file, my client did. And then it says you've chosen the accountant's copy transfer file. This file is about to be converted. Now, if you, I have a Pro Advisor license with Accountant Edition, so keep in mind that this accountant's copy file transfer service, either using the Pro Advisor license or if you're just not a Pro Advisor and you're using just the regular Accountant Edition license, definitely purchase the accountant's copy file transfer service. It's $10 a year. Okay. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to put this .qba file now back there. And while that converts, if I just kind of go back to the PowerPoint for a second, you know, I am at this stage, right? The client sent me the QBX. I'm converting it from a QBX to QBA. The ACFT would be, you know, this process here in between the two, and I'm converting it there. Okay, and soon I'll be in the QBA. Okay, so it's starting to convert. It's asking me to log in here. Go ahead and click OK. Let that go ahead and open up. And now it says, you know, I've opened an accountant's copy with dividing date here, so I can edit transactions dated on or before 12/31/11 and add new transactions with any date. My client will be working on transactions, you know, 1/1/2012 and forward. Okay, and changes that I make to the file will be tracked, and I can export them into the client. So go ahead and open that. And what you guys are probably going to see as we continue on with this accountant's copy process module, I'm going to hit a few other tools that are necessary to talk about. One being the Accountant Center. Now, this is a web-based dashboard that will follow you from file to file. Notice it shows 4 widgets right now, and then there's a lot of room down below, so you got to figure next year we'll add a couple more, but we're waiting to see how people use this year. These tools, typically you right-click and customize your icon bar with a bunch of tools, and it's file-specific. These actual tools I can customize and add them, and since this is a embedded browser within the file, it's going to open up with every company file that I use. So I can customize the tools, put them in whatever order, so that no matter what QuickBooks file I am in for 2012, or I've opened at least in my Accountant Edition 2012, these tools will be the same. Reconciliation widget, probably the darling of the ball. You know, you guys love seeing the last reconciled date and balance, and also the current balance that you have. You can do a reconcile from here. You can also run some memorized reports or display a group, as well as see any updates that would pertain to accountants that you'd want to know about, right? To learn about QuickBooks Mobile from Stacy Kildall, for example. You can also launch QuickBooks Statement Writer from the Accountant Center and log into your Pro Advisor account. We'll get to the Statement Writer soon. It's definitely one of the top 7 or 8 tools to contend with QuickBooks Accountant when working with your clients. Okay, let's go to the client data review. I want to do some work. Typically, you might run some reports, balance sheet, try to compare to last year, find what they deleted in the prior period, go clean up AR and AP, or maybe they wrote sales tax wrong or payroll tax. But I'm just going to use the client data review itself. Go ahead and click on that. It does remind you about the external accountant user that you could be. Since '09, we've had this user. And the big thing to point out here is it separates the changes you make in the file from changes that your client makes on the audit trail. It's like being an admin. So here's a client data review, and what's all the fuss? Well, it allows you to troubleshoot prior account balances, reclassify transactions in a batch that were miscoded, review any changes to your lists, right? Things have been merged or added or new. What about payroll items? You want to make sure the right tax tracking type is on there. Clean up AR and AP, even undeposited funds, write off invoices in a batch, and fix sales tax. I'm just going to show about 3 of the tools, but there's many tools here we've kind of consolidated that everybody shares in with QuickBooks clients. Everybody has to deal with it in one way or another when you're cleaning up the file. So this is kind of like your file cleanup dashboard, if you will. Troubleshoot prior account balances. I'm reviewing 2011. I want to make sure as of 12/31/2010, the last time I shored up these balances and sent it to Lacert or ProSeries or whatever tax program I'm using. Hopefully Lacert anyway. You know, what are the differences between the balances in the accounts records that I have from the last review I did and the balances in the client's file I just got? Right, as of 12/31/2010, and you guessed it, the stuff in blue means that they did some stuff. You can check the box in the lower left, only show accounts with different balances. I can zoom in on an amount to see, you know, what led to the difference. And I can also click View Suggested Adjustments at the bottom and make a journal entry adjustment as of 12/31/2010. Choose the appropriate customer vendor if it's AR or AP. And this will kind of shore the balances as of 12/31/2010 to match what I sent to Lacert. Okay, I'm going to click Save and Close. And now I can even reverse the entry to bring them into the review period of 2011. So the date will change to 1/1/2011. I click Save and Close. And now, you know, at least the prior period balances have been shored up. Okay, so that's good. Now I can move on to some other things, like reclassify transactions, one of the most popular tools in the client data review. I click Miscellaneous Expense. That's the account I give to my client when they're not sure, or they might be doing it anyways. I can take, instead of having to double-click on a bill and change the account and save and close, next, keep doing it and doing it and doing it, I can check off all these bills or a check or an item receipt, what have you, and I can move it to the appropriate account and even start class tracking. You can do this for P&L accounts, or going, maybe they wrote it to a P&L, but it should have been a fixed asset, or vice versa. It's up to you. Click Reclassify. It's going to move all of these transactions up to the repairs and maintenance. Okay. So Reclassify transactions definitely used a lot. I can review changes to lists here, clean up AR and AP. You might be running reports. Well, here's my credit memo, and here's my invoice. By customer or vendor, I can do it in a batch. So I'm going to click Apply. If they do this a lot, where they're depositing the payment without applying it to the invoice, right? So here's my ability to apply it. Click Save. That invoice is now, you know, closed. Now here's a deposit and an invoice. Do the same kind of thing. What about on the vendor side? I can take a check, and instead of doing a bill payment, well, here's a bill. Instead of doing a bill payment, they did a check. So now I can apply that check to the bill, and you can even zoom into the transaction. So you can do, again, batch per customer or vendor, but this will save you a lot of time. Clean up AR and AP. Okay, you can also do with undeposited funds. I can write off invoices in a batch. One thing I do like to show is when they write a regular check to pay off sales tax, I can actually click off the checks and void and replace them, and they'll be replaced with actual sales tax payment checks. And even if these checks are cleared, the voided check and the check that replaces it with the same check number. I mean, it's essentially doing the workaround you guys do now, but it'll do it in a batch for you. And then behind the scenes, there'll be sales tax payment checks, and that will also be in a cleared status, right? So you don't have to go do some mini reconciliation. This is a great tool right there. And then you can even troubleshoot inventory, things like that. So quite a bit you can do here on the client data review. You can track your status, because I can actually print this out and send it, or save it as a PDF and send it to my client so they know where I am, and put in some task notes if I want, or maybe some training opportunities, or I'm tracking trends, and then I can run an audit trail to review. And then when you're done, mark the review complete, right? Even I can set a closing date and password. Let me go ahead back and do 12/31/2011, even a password there, and that will go back when I send the change file back as well. Mark complete and close. So today I've gone ahead and cleaned up everything from 12/31/2011. Now I can send the file over to Lacert if I want to. So now that we're done cleaning up the file, let's go ahead and send the change file back to the client. I'm going to go to the File menu. I'm still the accountant. Accountant's copy, view export changes for client. Here are all the changes we just made using the complete version of the client data review, which you're only going to find in the account edition. And now I can click Send Changes to Client. And I'm going to put in my name, so I did the work, and any notes here that I want. This is the email address it's going to go to. I go ahead and click Send, and it's going to create the .qby file and upload it to the accountant's copy file transfer server. Again, I'm not just sending an email. I'm not going to use the server, the accountant's copy file transfer service, because of how easy it is for the client when they import the changes, which you'll see. So you click OK. I can X out of here, and now I want to go back into the client's file. It's awaiting the changes. So interestingly enough, while their file's opening up, I'll show you the email they get. Accountant's changes available. This is what the client will see. Your accountant has finished updating the accountant's copy of your QuickBooks company file, sent the changes to you to import. You have 30 days to do it. And now notice, what's different from the email that you get? Well, there's no attachment. So all they need to do is be able to go to File, Accountant's Copy, Import Accountant's Changes from the web. And they need to be able to know how to make a backup, but they know how to do that anyway. Okay. So let's minimize that. I'm in the client's file, the .qbw, Accountant's Changes Pending. File, Accountant's Copy, and here's what the client sees. Import Accountant's Changes from web. And it'll literally drop into their view, and it's the same view I had going out. Now I just can incorporate the accountant's changes, and I have to make a backup, dump it on the desktop. It's going to do the backup, it's going to incorporate the changes, and then it's even going to create a PDF file of all the changes. I'll show you that as we're going through. So the backup's saved. Now it's going to incorporate the accountant's changes, and you'll notice if you look at this pop-up you're seeing on my screen, it's going to create the PDF file here. And then it tells me a PDF file of the accountant's changes was created in the same location as the company file, etc. And then I'll click OK again. Notice the accountant is notified of the importation of the changes. When I close out, I get no pop-up for the closing date and password because I did it behind the scenes. So they'll get a pop-up and be required a password and call me when they're trying to do something, anything before 12/31/2011. That's what I want, though. So hopefully the next time the file is that much cleaner. So we've looked at the client data review, the accountant center, accountant's copy conversion process, multi-instance, okay, and toggle. We're going to look at three more things: File Manager, Period Copy, and End on Statement Writer. Now, File Manager, a way to manage all your client files. Let's just go into this folder here. Look how many, this is one file in here, and a backup or a portable. That's it. Look how many file types there are, right? There's QBW, there's a QBA, some QBXs. I mean, the reason I'm showing you this is you guys have 30 or 40 or 50 clients, so imagine how many files you have. You go out in the folder, you're not even sure, let's see which, if you hover over, you can see when it was last opened with. But these things you might want to know instead of digging around in the server folder. Which file is the right file to open? So File Manager is a little icon on your desktop. Everybody has it. They can store their own clients and all the clients' prospective file types there on the right. So very apt name for what it does. It manages your clients and the particular file types that matter: company files, accountant's copy file types, backups, and portables. You can add clients, because yours will be blank the first time you do it, just by updating the client list, and you'll have the opportunity to link it to a folder or to a file in a folder. Typically, you probably have a folder per client out on the server. Click Next. You would just add multiple clients at a time and browse out to add those folders, and then click Update List. It'll bring all of your clients here, A to Z, and all these file types there, giving you information of not only location out on the server, but when it was last modified. What version was it last opened with? See, I have 10 here. I have 2011, 2010. I even think I have a 9. So long as I had that installed, I could double-click. All the file operations are there, and I would open up the file. Now, for 2011, 2012 files, there's even a password vault that you can maintain for the usernames and passwords for these particular file types. So it'll bypass the login screen. You can do a batch upgrade to 2012, and you can even group your clients together to payroll clients, enterprise clients, etc. So this is the reason for being for a file manager. Now, condense. One of the key things for the accountant edition, if I go down to File Utilities Condense Data, or you also find it on your accountant menu, and you can put it on your accountant center. Transactions outside of a date range, right? So I can actually do a disclosure file for just 2008 if I want to. You choose the third bullet there below. 1/1/2008 to 12/31/2008. And for the removed transactions, how do I want to summarize it? One summary journal entry, or the typical one of one a month? Or how about no summary at all? If someone really, an agency is looking for a particular file, you only want to give them 08 and nothing after that. You have the ability to go ahead and do that and create a true disclosure file or period copy with nothing but data and bank recs, and the audit trail will only be from 1/1/2008 to 12/31/2008. And finally, what we'd like to go over and end with is the QuickBooks Statement Writer. Report Writer, financial statements, peer review statements, live link to the data file. I can go ahead and click on QuickBooks Statement Writer here from the Accountant Center under the Reports menu or under the Accountant menu, QuickBooks Statement Writer. It has its own update mechanism, different from the maintenance releases, and here's what you'll see. You can set up your preferences and formats or defaults for how you want all your reports to run, but I'm just going to design a new one. There's actually have a new template designer. It's a 5-step process. And I'm going to choose, since we're looking at December, I'm going to choose 2011, and then just, current month, year to date. You guys do that often, so let's do that. 2011. But you could do other date ranges, right? 4-week month, 13-week quarter, even a custom date range. I'll choose a balance sheet and an income statement, but there are many other reports to run, with variance, with percentage, selected prior period, cash flow statements, budget to actual, retained earnings, and even, it integrates with Word. And you can upload your own templates and even choose where you want to save it, out on the server or locally. And that's also in your preferences too. I'm going to go ahead and click Next, choose accrual basis. Step 2 is working with the columns. So maybe I want to add, this is when I go to my income statement. See, all the reports are here. Remember, in Statement Writer, it's like a workbook full of worksheets, a report per worksheet, if you will. You can have up to 16 worksheets in the workbook. I can grab QuickBooks data and drag it, follow the green bar there, and I can even do percent of the whole. Now, I know this is looking at December of 2011, so let me format the header. I'll have it be to ending. And then this one's actually looking current, year to date. So I'm going to edit the column date range, and instead of current period, current prior year, I'm going to do year to date. It's January through December 2011. And you can pull the sliders back if you want to add columns per year. And I can also format the column header here, and there we go, and then percent of the whole there. I click Next. Now let's talk about rows. If I go back to the balance sheet, it's a good example. Maybe I want to have checking, savings, petty cash, and undeposited funds all in the same account. I can drag and drop it if I want. Same with the petty cash. Notice a red hash mark for the accounts in there, or I can control-click on undeposited funds, right-click, and combine selected accounts. You can also move accounts to different areas, things like that. So you can roll up, split them out, Headers and formatting, choose the right report type it would be, and even the formulated columns. What do you want it to be called? So this is many different things can you do. And then finally, you review and finish it, and I can even memorize the current statement or the group, which will add it to that initial list of reports. So you could have like firm templates by industry chart of accounts, and everybody would use that same one. So it's already pre-formatted. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And then, of course, when you create the report, it moves it to Excel. And the real-time savings is that I no longer have to refresh or send it out back to Excel. There is a live link between the data, so it refreshes automatically. So here's my income statement in QuickBooks Statement Writer. Here's my balance sheet. And again, the red hash marks all the accounts in there, and I can do further work in here to tweak the report I want. Remember, it refreshes with the current data. I can update the current statement or any report or all statements from QuickBooks. It has a live link. Now to prove that, here's my, let's look at membership dues. Looks a little low. when that's clicked here and highlighted, let me see here, back to the balance sheet, employee advances will say. Notice that I can, highlight it and then zoom into QuickBooks, and it gives me the numbers behind the actual cells. And if you make a change here, when you refresh from QuickBooks, it updates the actual report itself. So the live link is going to save you tons of time. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, and then you can share your templates with your staff or your colleagues or peers. You can also save the report as a collated PDF in whatever order you want and send that by email. So QuickBooks Statement Writer should save you a lot of time, and overall, not only that, you can add your columns and even filter. Whenever I go to the properties, column properties, let's say I want to work on a column by class or job or fund or whatever. So all of these things in QuickBooks Accountant are designed to save you time. Please use them. We have the Accountant's Copy, Process, Accountant Center, the Complete Client Data Review, File Manager, Statement Writer, the ability to toggle to really consult with your clients, and of course the period copy or disclosure file. Hope you found this helpful. Have a great day.